So welcome to another episode of Wide Open Throttle. We have the usual cast of characters here today, along with our very special guest, Jamal Hameedi, who is Global Performance Vehicle Chief Engineer for Ford. He's also brought along these fantastic
Cobra mugs.
Cobra mugs. Thank you very much.
We've been bribed.
We've been bribed, totally.
Well, softball questions for the rest of the time.
Well, before we begin, actually, I need to make sure we do a check here to make sure we're all qualified to discuss Jamal's topics here. So first of all, please raise your hand if you've ever jumped a Ford Raptor. All right, next question. Also raise your hand if you have done a burnout in an SVT product. All right, cool, everyone's qualified here. Everyone's qualified. So, Jamal, why are you in our neck of the woods? You're far from home. Is it, I guess, you guys are doing something with Fiesta ST?
Yeah, we're just launching the Fiesta ST in North America.
What's the feedback been like?
Feedback in Europe, the car launched in Europe first, and in Europe it's been an absolute smash hit, and it's won just about all of the comparison tests against the Clio and the Peugeot 208 that it's competed in. And we're just waiting to introduce that here in North America now.
It's fascinating though. I mean, a B segment car is very, very small for America. I mean, this is a land of wide open spaces with wide roads and everywhere. And a B segment performance car is even a stranger combination because you can get, you know, V8s with horsepower up the wazoo. How do you think the Fiesta ST is going to go here, and who's going to buy it?
Yeah, you beat a bunch of French cars. Who cares? It's America. Come on now.
That's one of the questions that we asked early on in the development, and honestly, that's one of the things about doing these global performance cars, that you're not so reliant on the car selling on one market, you know, to meet your business goals and things like that. But the car is it lives and really wants twisty, tight roads. If you don't have that, we've found that in an urban environment, it's a great city car because it's small. You can park it anywhere. It's got 5 doors, a hatchback. It's very usable. So you know what you would think is a small car, it actually has quite a bit of cargo space. I think it's a relatively interesting proposition for a urban vehicle too.
And that was the interesting thing. When I drove it in Europe, I started thinking about what you would compare to this, and the only thing you can really think of is like Mini and Fiat 500 Abarth, and that's kind of it. It's kind of in a wide open space.
Yeah, I think you know, with the Mini, I think a lot of people ask that question about the Mini. Would Americans buy that small of a car? Yeah. And you know, we know the rest is history. There in this country, Mini's done really well. So I think there are those customers out there for the Fiesta ST.
But there's a pretty big price gap there between even, I mean, not even talking about like a John Cooper Works or a Cooper S between the ST. I mean, you guys top at like 21,000.
Yeah, it's 21,400 is where we start. So that's an incredible you know, value proposition that, I mean, there's nothing else in that price point that is as fun to drive, and really anything that would even raise the eyebrows of a performance enthusiast.
So this global approach to SVT is really good, because you used to have the Europeans did their thing and the Americans did their thing, and nobody got to see each other's cars. I mean, you are Ford Motor Company, one Ford, one world. So is things like your suspension tuning, is that consistent for the world? I mean, BMW, you know, they drive like BMWs everywhere.
Right.
Here they used to, we need soft suspensions because, you know, our roads are rough.
Yeah, that's we've spent the last 3 years developing our global performance DNA, and that's a global DNA for all performance cars. So we've been very fanatical about offering the same car to the European customer, to the American customer, and to the Chinese customer. And we heard our customers loud and clear for the past 10 years. They said, we want the European car. Don't dumb it down for America. We want that exact same car. So we've you know, down to the exact same tire, same chassis tune. There's minor differences for weight, you know, for 3 doors versus 5 doors, but the cars drive identical, and that's kind of our path going forward.
That also makes really good financial sense too, though, right? I mean, you don't have to tune or spec separately for different markets. One Ford, one cost process.
It's actually it's a game changer in terms of the way we spec cars, because all of that redundant engineering can now go into content for the customer. Things like sound symposers and bespoke suspension components, things that would never have found their way on a B performance car are now, you know, standard equipment. So it's been incredible.
Are the horsepower wars over? Are the manufacturers stepping away from that? We've heard from the German tuners that maybe that's the case, but you guys do rule the roost with the GT500. What do you say?
I think there's a lot more performance and horsepower to be had, and I think you're seeing that in the hypercar world now. And you know, it may not all be internal combustion horsepower, but the absolute levels of horsepower that you're seeing, I don't see too many trends of them tapering off or going down.
Well, these hypercars, you know, combined horsepower ratings are 700, 800, 900 horsepower cars. That seems to be where that's all coalescing around.
Yeah, and that's the. I think there's a big efficiency story there.
Sure.
So looking forward, it's not just all going to be about horsepower, but it's really efficiency and the performance you're getting.
So the next GT500 will be a hybrid. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think.
Well, Carlos is making light of it, but you guys are not in that hypercar discussion as of yet. Is there, you know, near-term or longer-term out plans to do something like that, where you have some other drive system component? Anything you want to talk about, reveal to the world right now?
I mean, we're just kind of sitting back and looking at the landscape, and that kind of technology is in a hypercar, you know, with $1 million price tags for a reason. So, but it's very interesting technology, but it's very unaccessible technology for, you know, something like an SVT or.
At the moment, you know, it's going to come down in cost, and if you think about it, if you had a very clever hybrid system, it makes it a lot easier to turn a Focus or a Fiesta from a front-wheel drive car to an all-wheel drive car, doesn't it? It's a lot easier.
It absolutely is, and it's interesting technology, and you know, us as a group of you know, hardcore engineers, we watch it and keep an eye out on little pockets of opportunity should they arrive.
So clearly then you're looking around the industry, you're paying attention to what else is going on. From your position in SVT and global performance, who are you looking at? Who does it well, would you say? Like, of the factory guys, not the Hennessy's of the world, not the tuner side of things, but factory guys. Who do you admire or think is paving the way?
Well, you know, I kind of feel like there's two divisions, if you're two real big parts of a performance car, and that's the technical execution and then that emotional execution. And I think that a lot of people really do, you know, Ferrari is very good at the emotional execution. Porsche, BMW has traditionally been very good at the technical execution, and I think there's still room for people to marry both of those into one vehicle that, you know, really gets your blood boiling, but is very, very technically well executed and capable.
But if you look at someone like AMG, I mean, what impresses me about AMG, and I've watched how Mercedes has developed that over the years, those three letters are now hugely valuable. It helps them sell aftermarket wheels, it helps them sell, you know, a bunch of it's not all about the mega engine horsepower cars. There's an AMG for everything. Could Ford do the same with your brand?
Yeah, well, we could. I think we choose not to. When we formed SVT 20 years ago, it was substance value, exclusivity was one of the things. So like one of the things we value is that with a GT500, we offer our customer a bespoke engine. That engine is not on any other vehicle. It is truly, a GT500 is the only place you can get a 5.8. And we feel like that has value to an enthusiast. And so, yeah, we could take that 5.8 engine or whatever and cut and paste it across several different car lines. But I think what we'd rather do is really make very special, very bespoke solutions for our customers.
Speaking of that, my favorite Ford vehicles, the Ford GT and the Boss. Amazing vehicles, both came and went. Is anything going to be done? I mean, like I said, two of what I think are probably the two best Ford vehicles I've ever driven, you guys got rid of. Why?
Well,
why?
I mean, if you ask a Ford GT owner, they are ecstatic that it's not that we got rid of them, but we had a limited run of 2 years. Those cars are appreciating in value. So you look back, and that is a very positive experience for those owners.
I can't
and
argue
we're not
the business
flooding,
case. I mean,
Yeah,
what
the
you
Boss
guys did
model
was
is insane because it's like everyone's kicking themselves for not buying it. It's
Right.
like, I think it's fantastic, and now it's off.
But it was surprising to see it, or disappointing is more the word, to see both of those vehicles basically end. To not see them progress. That Boss, that first time we got to drive that, I was absolutely blown away with what that car could do. Felt like no other Mustang I'd ever driven. It was
So what
absolutely
it does,
phenomenal.
now it's imprinted upon you that when the next one comes around, you're buying it.
Yeah, but when's the
Well-
next GT going to come around?
Yeah, that's it.
Ford's played around with these sorts of cars. It's like Honda playing around with the NSX. You come and you go out in and out of this hypercar or supercar atmosphere, and it's great. The Ford GT was there, but is it going to be another 40 years before we see another one?
Yeah, you've left
But
a
as we
void.
saw with the NSX on the other side, you can let it last for too long.
You
You
can.
saw that with this kind of the C6 Corvette too. It can be around for too long.
Ooh.
See, the strategy is working. Look at all the anticipation we're building here.
Great. So
Something that doesn't exist yet.
Right. All right. A couple episodes ago, we had a very nice gentleman here from Chevrolet who said some very controversial things about a few of your products, and I would like to read them to you. It was Al Oppenheiser,
You may know of him.
the chief engineer.
I've heard of Al.
Heard of Al. Chief engineer on Camaro, and he said, and I quote, "In the Camaro lineup we have today,
Model by model, our versions beat the Mustang in whatever you want to compare it to.
Point one. Point two, I don't think they'll have anything to touch this car," speaking specifically about the Camaro Z28. So I don't think
They
they'll.
have anything that's going to touch this car, Ford or Chrysler.
And lastly, how do I feel about
Ford, I wake up every day and come into work looking for ways to beat them.
to beat them? And he did follow up and say, well, I'm sure they do the same thing as well. So what do you say?
Well, on point one, it really makes us happy that the Camaro guys are so focused on us.
Yeah, that is. Competition is great.
No, and that's what when we develop a car, we're not focusing on our competition. We're trying to transcend what is out there. We want to be leaders, not followers.
And I mean, I got to say, to point one, I disagree 100%. The Mustang GT I would take any day over a Camaro SS. Any day. I find the car much more enjoyable to drive. The Camaro SS has gotten better, but it's still just the SS, not talking about their higher performance versions.
Sure.
SS, still heavy, still can't see out of it, and I take a Ford Mustang GT any day.
You hear that? It's the
Any
sound-
day.
It's the sound of our comments. Just blowing up.
And you know what? I'm happy for that, but having driven their higher end versions, you guys got some work to do to catch them up. The Z28 is absolutely ferocious. Haven't touched it yet, but from what we've seen, that thing should be an absolute monster.
1LE is pretty good competition.
1LE is a
for,
great car.
for
I mean,
Boss too.
but like I said, to
cheap.
straight comparison of their base V8 vehicles, Ford Mustang GT, hands down.
And honestly, I wish them all the luck, like with stuff like Z28. I hope that they find as much success with the Z28 as we have with the Boss. and the Laguna Seca and the GT500.
Sure.
So that's, we don't hate those guys, we love those guys.
Well, isn't it great? You know, there are a lot of doom and gloom merchants, and we get this often in the comments, about the good old days, when America had real muscle cars and all this sort of thing. Well, if you look at the number of performance vehicles from American manufacturers available to American consumers right here, right now, I would argue that we're living through a new golden age.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, and it's changed in the past 10 years. So when I first came to America 10 years ago, a couple of cars around, but nothing that really got you excited. Now you can look around, whether it's GT500s or Z28s or Corvettes and so on. There are a lot of really exciting performance cars.
All the way down to Focuses and Fiestas,
of course,
and all that stuff.
Which you never would have got 10 years ago.
Absolutely, yeah.
But and the beautiful thing is, like, if you go back and you drive some of these older cars, I mean, yes, they're emotional. They make great noises. They even smell good, but just don't try to turn a corner in a lot of them. You know? But the cars these days that your team is building, that Al's group is building, I mean, they're not just hauling ass in a straight line. They're legit track cars now.
So have American consumer tastes changed? It used to be from a foreigner, American cars went great in a straight line, but it seems to be much more European handling, turn-in response, grip through corners, getting in and out of corners is much more important now.
Yeah, and I think there's different cars for different missions, and what we really don't want to do is to try to make a car to be all things to all people. We like focused, cars with a particular mission that touches a particular enthusiast's hot buttons. And I think like a GT500, that's what that car does. It makes no apologies about what it is, which is, a fire-breathing 662 horsepower car that, you guys ran 3.5 seconds 0 to 60s in that, 11.6 quarter miles. And I mean, those are decent numbers even
and
2
it
years
still goes
on.
around corners reasonably well too.
It absolutely does.
It's not just a straight line monster, which is really impressive.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too, is you mentioned it's quarter mile time. That gets you kicked off of a drag strip. If you run that car under 12 seconds.
They changed the
They
NHRA.
changed it?
NHRA changed the rules. It says if the car can do this from the factory, it's okay.
Oh, see, because I mean, you used to break 12 seconds, and you need to have.
Yeah, our
a lot of
engineers
various
actually we struggled with getting kicked off drag strips. When we were developing that car.
Well, actually, getting back to the Z28, if you guys could do a car that would be a competitor to that, what would it look like?
I mean, that's a fairly straightforward formula. Everyone's been doing those kind of cars, stripped out track racers for many, many years now. So it's, for us, that's fairly straightforward.
Well, but to bring it back to the first time we met, which was on Raptor, that I think was like a landmark vehicle for SVT, because you guys, similar to what you just said, you know how to do the street stuff. You've done Lightnings, you've done a street truck before, but doing like a really crazy desert truck for the Baja Racer, that was example Ford, zagging where they used to zig. So are we to say that maybe Mustang, you might do something like we've never even thought of for the next one?
Hybrid Mustang.
If we ever work on another Mustang, I'm not saying we are going to do another Mustang, but
Jim Farley's a bit worried to hear you say that.
Right.
He's planning to sell a whole bunch of Mustangs next year.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
No, but I keep coming back. The Raptor to me is absolutely fascinating. I think I said this is the 911 GT3 of pickup trucks, because you can get into this truck and go out into the desert and you feel like a driving god. The car works so well. My question for you is, how do you top that? What happens with Raptor? Is there a development arc for the Raptor, or is it one day we're just going to wake up and, well, we did the Raptor, but that was yesterday, and now we're...
Absolutely not. The day we introduced the Raptor, our engineers were working on, stuff to. So there's still a lot of gold to be mined with that solution, and that product is, usually when you introduce a product and the sales kind of taper off at the end of the cycle life, the Raptors have just, we're building, so many more Raptors today than when we started.
And what's fascinating is that no one else is following your lead. I mean, you might have zagged when people were expecting you to zig, but the basic formula, the truck's not rocket science, is it?
No. I'm actually quite shocked that competitors haven't come out and because I mean we're having a field day in the market with the only game in town.
Well, on that note, thanks for coming in. Congratulations
thanks for
on all
having
the
me.
success. And,
Good stuff going on.
Yeah. So tune in for our next episode of Open Throttle in about a week.